Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to the latest office hours from Bick Gardner. My name is John Kowalski. I'm part of the marketing team here, and today's year-end presentation is really about your questions, comments, concerns. It's color and appearance, anything goes. We are recording this immediately following the presentation. You'll get a link to the recording. I have with me a few experts from our side of things. We have Noah Morgan. He's our application specialist. We have Ray Roby, our business line manager for automotive, and Mr. Greg Schreider, key accounts vice president and all around guru of things color and appearance. So if you have questions, we really don't have a set presentation. We do this every year in December and really open it up to you. What are your comments, concerns, questions, anything regarding color and appearance? There's the chat box located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Feel free to enter your comments, questions. You may be asked to unmute yourself if we need further discussion. I get tired of hearing myself speak. I get tired of hearing Noah speak. So it might be your turn today. So with that, any questions? Nothing is off limits regarding color and appearance. So let's start it off. I'll just kind of, start asking some questions to our experts here while you all are thinking of any questions or any ways we can assist you with your applications, any challenges you're seeing. So one question, that came out of one of our seminars on color measurement tools and uses was, can you clarify digital standards and how they improve color harmony? Noah or anyone like to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So digital standards can improve color harmony because instead of in the past having to send out different panels that could vary slightly, if you just have a digital standard that's from one essential sample, that can then be set as that master, and those values, they're not going to change because there's only one sample. And so it's better to have that one sample rather than a bunch of different ones that could then vary. And then when you have those varying, you could have different matches in the field.
Nice, excellent. Another question that I've heard quite a bit, does the measurement direction affect your readings? What do you think?
Yeah, so it depends on your instrument. So if you're using, say, a Spectra guide or a Spectra 2 guide or Color 2 View, that uses circumferential lighting. So the light comes from all directions. Versus something like a Bic Mac where the light is linear, so all light's coming from one direction. Therefore, if you, depending on the angle that or the direction or orientation of the instrument, you're going to achieve slightly different values depending on which way you're orienting that instrument.
Mm-hmm. And you bring up a good point. It seems like, at least half of our webinars, some of the challenges or I guess the solutions to the challenge is the process, how one shift to another, one plant to another holds and positions the instrument, because that's the only way to get a true apples to apples comparison, right?
And for automotive especially, you want to make sure that you are measuring with the instrument in the same orientation as you'd be looking at outside. So you want the arrow pointing down so that it's illuminating from the top, just like the sun would be. And that's important. And it also keeps everybody doing it consistently the same way. Because if you have someone spin the instrument, say 90 degrees, it's going to cause your data to be completely different, especially on metallics, not so much solids.
Nice. And I know with automotive sparkle angles, what angles are most important?
So for me,
that's a general question.
Yeah. The 15 and the 75 degree are the most important. So the 15 usually relates more to material, and the 75 usually relates more to process.
That's what I have in my notes. How about that?
What?
Look at that. Yeah. Greg, anything on your mind? What do you?
I was just gonna add to the orientation answer that in the organizers, you can also take a silhouette of anything that you're making or painting. Could be a car, it could be a refrigerator, it could be anything. And you can position the instrument where you want somebody to take those measurements. And you can also give the orientation of the instrument. It doesn't mean that it's always gonna do that. It's just instructions for people to follow.
Good, good. Makes sense. Let's see what else. Oh, it looks like we got a question in here. Thank you, Michelle. What is the best control or conditions of looking at fabric in a light box? It's a good old textile question.
So the best way to orientate the sample is at a 45 degree and you look directly into it. So that usually means if you're in a light booth, you hold the sample at 45 degrees and you look directly into it. And that way you can then change the lighting condition to look for metamerism and other things that you might want to evaluate.
Nice. Nice. Did that answer your question, Michelle? You can just throw a yes or no, or I need more help in the chat. We're here to help. Yes, that you're welcome. You are welcome. Another question here from one of our color measurement tools and uses webinars. What would you recommend for harmony, 45-0 or a sphere? And why?
45-0 for me, for automotive for sure. It gives you the harmony number. It matches what your eye sees visually. So that's why we would use it for automotive. Greg, same.
Yeah, if you're trying to get measurements that align with what you see, you want to use 45-0.
Yep.
If you have pieces or components that have multiple gloss levels and it's designed to be that way, and you want numbers to be the same, then you want to use a sphere.
No, good, makes sense. Around appearance too, can the instrument, with appearance, it's our Bic Mac Eye, can the instrument be used on low gloss coatings?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's
Uh,
a color measurement, and low gloss surfaces are fine for a Bic Mac. Yeah.
Perfect.
And you might see different numbers for different angles.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll definitely see different with the gloss level changing on those like matte finishes now. They can change by angle, so it will be angle dependent.
Okay, good. Again, on the multi-angle, how many measurements per location is recommended? I'm sure it's application dependent, but are there some guidelines that folks should follow?
Usually 3 is sufficient. For standards, I would say 5, just because you want a good average of numbers there. The more the merrier in that situation.
And one thing, when you measure your standards, you want to always make sure that your panel orientation is set up the same way every time, because if you spin that panel and then you measure with the instrument in a different direction, it's going to give you different numbers. Just like if you're measuring on a vehicle and you spin the instrument, same issue.
Nice. Michelle, again, just to follow up on textiles, do you have an item for sale that would allow us to look at our fabrics at a 45-degree angle? So you're talking a light box?
I assume you're referring to, do we have like a jig or something that you can lay the sample on? Usually customers make their own, and then they paint that sample holder with an N7 gray paint. And if you go to somebody like Sherwin-Williams, they should know exactly what you mean when you say N7. It's
Okay.
the same color as the inside of the light booth.
Great. Thank you. Okay, good, Michelle. If anyone else has questions, just throw it in the chat box here, and we'll get to them. True or false, for transmission haze and clarity, the factors that affect transmission haze and clarity are material thickness, surface smoothness, and presence of additives or contaminants.
True.
Haha. I thought so. It is. Is there a clear, pun intended, standard for haze and clarity?
Yes, so that would be ASTM D1003 and also ISO 13468.
Okay, good. Let's see, what else? Are there, to kind of get away from my questions and talk to our guests here, are there, I mean, because it's color and appearance, we can kind of go anywhere we want today. Are there things that you all see occurring over and over with customers on something they're doing incorrectly that is affecting their data, or processes that they should make sure are standard in their plants and facilities? That's a general question, huh?
That is very general. Let me think on that. You could say metamerism is one of the things that you see as an issue. And what metamerism is it's when you have two samples that are the same color under one light, but then if you change the light source, it then looks completely different. And so with that, you want to test for it with different illuminants in the instrumentation. And, it could be in light booths as well, just using different lights and examining these samples and how they look different under the different light sources.
Are there other, common things that you're seeing, Ray or Greg, out in the field that are just occurring over and over, but with some slight adjustments that can be corrected?
There's a lot of talk and interest around measuring jetness. And a lot of people have asked the question, can I use a sphere spectrophotometer to measure jetness? And unfortunately, the answer to that is no, because there's an inherent amount of diffuse light in a sphere that ends up in your spectral curve. And we're talking spectral curves for jetness on a 45-0 instrument that are down under 1%. So you can never get that low with a sphere-based instrument. That said, the other thing that happens when measuring jetness is sample contaminant. So any dust that gets on to a sample will affect pretty greatly your jetness numbers. So if you're trying to prove how jet a black is, then you have to have really clean samples.
I mean, do you need to be measuring in a clean room, or?
No, you don't need to be measuring in a clean room. You should have a clean environment.
Okay.
But lint-free gloves and a way to clean the surface of the sample. So whether that's water or just a lint-free cloth to move the dust off is all you really need. And then you should also have a strong flashlight that you can hold at roughly 45 degrees to the sample, and you'll see dust that you don't normally see.
And then, okay, I gotcha. Larry's asking here, what is better or more accurate, 45-0 or a D8 measurement?
Most of the time, at least for us, the specification is the same. The D8 instruments they tend to, if you're using them in specular included mode, they will ignore scratches more, any type of texture, any gloss differences. So they're more forgiving from a sampling standpoint, but from a pure specification standpoint, they're both the same. So
Okay.
you should be looking at, inter-instrument agreement like 0.1 and repeatability of 0.01.
Yeah.
And no matter what you're using, those specs are the same.
Are there industries that kind of, I know there's oddballs, but kind of gravitate towards either a 45-0 or sphere? I mean, textiles are sphere, right?
Depends on the application.
And what
Okay.
they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Automotive interiors, in my opinion, should always be 45-0s. There's some customers that still use spheres, but it's totally up to the OEMs and what they define as their specification and what they're trying to achieve. But normally for interior automotive, we would use 45-0s.
Okay, good. Okay, application specifier, OEM specific. Really? Okay.
Coil coating, for example, is mainly 45-0. There are some applications where people want to use sphere, but that industry is largely standardized on 45-0, and formulation applications are typically sphere.
Yeah.
Some manufacturers use 45-0 in the manufacturing process. So if they have any gloss changes in their batch,
Yeah.
it'll show up usually in L.
Okay. So there's not really one, they're just two different ways to measure as opposed to one's better than the other.
It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Good. Is
And
that,
the best way to decide that is to talk to us, and then we can help you determine what instrument would be better for you for whatever situation you're in.
yeah, good. That's a good point. And actually, I think on this next slide, oh, yep, Noah's email address is right there for you. You know, in that instance, if you have questions about that, you know, shoot an email to Noah, or you can simply hit reply to any of the marketing messages you get, and me or my team can route it to Noah or one of our technical experts here to, you know, steer you on the right path. Let's see, what else? Dispersion. Okay, another question. We have 2 BICO SpectraLite booths. What's the best way to make sure we are seeing the same thing on both boxes?
Seeing the same thing.
Yeah, so they should all be calibrated to a specific specification. If you haven't had them calibrated or recertified recently, you need to have that done. And then they need to make sure the spectral distribution is the same for both of them to make sure you're seeing the same color off of both instruments.
Okay, so I guess the first question is, have they been certified within the last 12 months? If not, that would be the first step. Is that something we can do in the field, or something they can?
We can do it in the field.
Okay, so we can do it in the field too. So yeah, you can reach out to us, and we can help arrange that, and get you in touch with our service department and get them certified. And
Yeah, and if you don't use them at the same time, or they're separate or in separate rooms, it's a good idea to look at the bulb life,
yeah,
especially the daylight, and
Make sure
they're
they're similar.
yeah, 'cause
Or,
it's
okay.
after 600 hours, that needs to be replaced.
good.
And we do see a lot of light booths that either have not been recertified in quite some time, or do have a lot of use on those bulbs, and you can tell that the bulbs are starting to diminish and change color. So it's important that you check all this.
Yeah, and when we recertify that, our technicians will check for bulbs and make sure everything's working in top position. So that's great. Yes, we are in need of updates for our booths. Should we reach out to Noah or customer service?
Yeah, you can reach out to me, and I can inform the service team and
Forward it to them. Yeah, just reach out to Noah, and he'll get you in touch with the service powers that be. Thanks, Michelle. Another question in here: what is better for measuring high gloss painted parts, and which is better for measuring low gloss painted parts? I assume, Larry, you're talking about the D8 versus the 45-0. Yes.
And that really comes back to what are you
doing?
trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Do you want the numbers to agree with your visual valuation? If so, then 45-0 is going to be better. If it's with effect pigments, then it's multi-angle. So if it's anything automotive related, then multi-angle is really the way to go.
Does that help, Larry? I've unlocked your microphone, so if you want to unmute yourself and elaborate a bit. There should be a like a round circle with a microphone in it, or it's red. If you click on that, that will unmute yourself. If you have a microphone connected, and if you're around, okay, yes, great. Okay, glad that helped. Okay, what other things are out there that we can assist with? We got a lot of brain power and a lot of
So
You-
just to
years experience in the room.
So just to talk about wave scan and kind of switch topics, just
Yeah.
because this is one thing I've been thinking of. So I know like on newer models, there's a lot more feature lines on the vehicle. And when you're using the wave scan, you do not want to roll over the feature lines. It does screw your wave scan numbers up. So do not do that. Please always measure on the flattest surface possible with the wave scan. And with the microwave scan, you really need to be careful because the wheelbase is so small, because it's supposed to be used on mirror housings and door handles. You really need to watch the tilting of that instrument, because that will give you variation in your data also.
Good. And I know we talked about Jetness a bit. I know, how old is that instrument, the Spectra 2 Guide Pro? A couple years?
It's been out for a little over a year and a half.
Mhm.
That's the benchtop version. There's also a handheld version.
Good. Yeah, and the benchtop, yeah, that we just came out with those new products just over a year ago.
And one thing about our pro version, which is important, because you can measure jetness in different instruments because they have the equation in there, but we did a lot of work with our pro to make sure that it has more illumination, so more energy getting to the surface, and all things that give the data much more meaning, and it is more what you see visually, and it really can pick up the differences in like the hue of the black and also the lightness, darkness of the black.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ray, that the instrument goes through an additional calibration process in the manufacturing of that unit. It also comes with an additional calibration standard. And so when you're in the jetness mode, the illumination is much increased. I believe it's 10 times more, and the exposure time or the measurement time is longer. So having that reduces the signal to noise ratio that's in the instrument, and it gives you very, very repeatable measurements below 1% reflectance.
Which
So-
we thought would be simpler when we started doing the project, and then it became quite complicated. And so now we have this instrument that we think does an amazing job at measuring jetness.
Just took us a little longer than we thought.
Yes.
Oh, what a surprise. Larry here, and he apologizes, his mic's not working. But we're measuring exterior high gloss automotive paint and interior low gloss paint. So curious, which would apply for each, 450 or the D8?
450 for the interior, and for exterior metallic materials for OEMs, you would use the Big Mac,
Which is multi-angle.
and what the angle is.
Got it.
And a lot of, if you have like OEMs, many of the OEMs right now, like Noah was talking about digital standards earlier. Most of the OEMs now have digital standards where they can just email you the file for the colors that you need, and you can upload it directly into the Big Mac. We don't have everything done yet for interior colors, but we're working on that process too.
Good. Excellent. So do you want to talk a bit more about digital standards? What are they for folks that may not, have touched those or are just getting into them? What are the benefits? What's the value?
So for the digital standards, originally in automotive, like Noah was saying, they would send, say Thierry paints all your panels, and then they go through and they do a visual assessment of the panels. They try to pick the ones that are the closest, and then they use those for your actual certified standards. But obviously it's not always so simple to do things visually, and you have to really know what you're looking for. So there was some variation in the standards. And so if I measured in with my Big Mac at one facility, the panel that I have, and maybe someone else at another facility used a Big Mac and measured in their standard, you're already adding sources of error, and that's what you don't want, because you want everyone going to the same center point so that everyone's matching the same color. And it also takes away from where if you're sending parts to multiple plants, now you're going to be able to send the same color to all the plants. You're not going to have one plant that wants you a little bit darker or a little bit lighter than another plant. So you're, instead of going into like a middle place where you're not really matching either, now you're going all to the same standard. So it really helps with that.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. Larry came back to, his question about high gloss automotive paint. He clarified his exterior is not metallic, it's solid. So would a 450 be the way to go, or the D8?
45 zeros, I would say.
How so? Why?
Mostly because it's essentially the multi-angle without the rest of the angles. So you want to look at it how you would visually see. And the 45 zero is the instrument that measures how or what we would visually see.
And just one other point, I know that we always say like, well, I know originally we only used the 45-0 even on the Bic Mac or the 45 angle on the Bic Mac to measure solids, but we have been seeing with the newer pigments that are coming out and how they're milling them quite fine, that solids are even traveling. So for me, I would recommend that you use a Bic Mac multi-angle instrument on those two, because you're going to see some variation in your angles depending on how you're looking at it. If you're not traveling the same, you're still going to get that harmony mismatch on other angles that you're not measuring. If you only use the 45-0.
That's a good point. Good. You know, and we touched on a little bit interior. You know, one thing I know, at least from a marketing standpoint, our Spectra 2 Profiler instrument, which measures texture and grain. We're working on some new white papers, some new presentations, some new materials to further communicate the value of that. One of you three want to touch on what that instrument is, what it does, and where that value is?
Yeah, so it's essentially a profilometer that can measure color, gloss, and texture. So usually a grain texture or leather-like texture, or it can get into fine textures as well. And so essentially what it does is it will measure the hills and valleys of whatever that texture is. And then it will also at the same time measure the gloss, and it'll measure the color. So it's like a 3-in-1 almost. And with the color measurement, it's not measuring the actual pigment, it's measuring how we would see color. So that color is affected by that texture. And so it's going to measure the color exactly how our eyes would see it versus what the color or what the pigmentation actually is without the texture in there.
Nice. Another great question here. When should you use specular included, and when should you use specular excluded? Can you touch and elaborate on the differences between those? And
Interior.
is this interior application? Is that right?
I mean, I don't know if it matters.
Yeah, just
In general, with anything that you're manufacturing, if there's a manufacturer's specification, then follow that. If they prefer included or excluded, that's the one you would follow.
Yeah.
If it's up to you, then I would say with our instruments, the D8 included gives you color only or ignores surface structure. And then since we include a 60-degree gloss meter inside the instrument, you'll get gloss values also.
Yeah, so touching again on that, when to use included versus excluded on a exterior high gloss solid and interior low gloss solid. If it's not specified,
If it's, you only have a sphere, I would again use the D8 included with gloss measurement, because then if you get if the interior parts have any texture to them and they're different grains, it's going not to include that in the numbers. So it's going to give you color only, and you don't have any directionality due to the positioning of an interior part going one direction or on a curve or something like that.
Oh, that makes sense.
But for interior automotive in general, we would, if you're doing it because you want everything to look the same, we recommend the 45-0, not a sphere. Or not a D8, however you want to say it.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Or any follow-up questions?
The other part of that
Yeah.
is just the economic answer. And if that is the only instrument you have,
Yeah.
then use included and the gloss value.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
And,
too.
and the further to that is that the excluded measurement will not agree 100% with the 45-0 instrument. So it's agrees well at the high gloss end of the gloss range, but as you drop down, especially in very low gloss, you don't get good correlation at all between a sphere excluded and 45-0.
Nice. Other questions out there? We have a lot of time left and can help out. We have like 200,000 hours of experience in this room, mainly from Greg, but just kidding. Okay. I thought specular included includes gloss and excluded excludes gloss.
It's a play on words. By including the specular part of the measurement, the instrument is blind to surface characteristics. So you're including the specular component, and therefore it can't see differences in gloss or texture or anything like that.
So it's the opposite of what you think, and I always say it wrong. That's all I know.
It's just that.
It's by including the specular component as part of the measurement, it ignores surface texture. So the easiest way to do that is think of a glossy gray and a matte gray are going to look very different.
Yep.
A D8 included will measure them the same.
Yeah.
But you will get different gloss values.
Got it. Thank you. You're welcome for the clarification. If you forget, call us or email Noah.
Don't ask me though, because I always say it backwards.
Yeah. Awesome. What haven't we talked about? We talked a little bit about the profiler, the multi-angle. What about the fluorimeter with our Spectra 2 guide? That's pretty unique and interesting.
Yeah, so with fluorescence measurements, in certain industries or certain applications, it's nice to have because over time, for example, we could say like an umbrella. If you have an umbrella that has some type of fluorescence in it, over time, the sun's going to degrade that fluorescence. And when that happens, that color is going to look completely different. So with the fluorimeter, you can almost kind of detect or estimate what it's going to look like after all that fluorescence is gone. So it's a nice feature to have.
Awesome. And you guys, it's a holiday surprise. This webinar, color and appearance, anything goes, but guess what? Our very own James Fusco, king of physical test equipment, has joined the room. So now we are broadening this. It's not color and appearance, anything goes. It's color, appearance, and physical test. Anything goes. So if you have any questions regarding physical testing, physical test equipment, drawdown bars,
Film applicators.
Washability
machines.
There you go. We got
Gel timers. Drying time recorders.
Okay.
We got it all.
We got it all.
All under one roof.
There you go. So, I mean, if anyone's out there, if you have any questions, just log them in the chat box. And hey, it's a holiday miracle. Yeah, we get a little squirrely at the end of the year. I mean, we've done like 1 billion of these webinars. You got to get squirrely eventually and let it all out. We are busy in process planning next year's webinar schedule. We have 2 kinds of webinars: our 60 minutes, which are your traditional, 45-minute presentation followed by 15 minutes Q&A. And then we have our office hours webinars, which are shortened presentations, usually 20, 25 minutes, and then just kind of opened up discussion like this for you. Okay, question in here. How do you measure highly polished samples?
So I'll take that one.
All right.
Highly polished samples, such as something that's like a chrome bumper or polished bronze or gold. You have a lot of metallic covers for cosmetic packaging,
Mhm.
all of that kind of stuff, you have to use a sphere included instrument for that. If you use
Mhm.
450, a lot of those highly polished metals will look black because
There's
it's
so
all the
much
spectral
reflected,
component
yeah.
goes off in 45 degree direction, and it's not included in the measurement. So it's definitely sphere or D8 included.
Okay.
One other thing that you can do for appearance on like chrome bumpers and stuff is you can use the microwave scan on those, and you can get your DU through WD numbers, and this will help you get a good appearance on chrome plated bumpers and materials on the vehicle.
Nice. Nice. Another question in here. Can you talk a bit more about metamerism, causes, etc.? And do we have an instrument that can measure metamerism?
So yeah, the cause of metamerism is that you have two samples that have different spectral curves, and that is a result of different pigment formulation that can get to the same color under one light source, but when you switch to a different light source, it not only looks different, but the curves are very different, and you can pinpoint that. And you can set that up in any instrument, any software out there. There are metameric indexes that you can use. Usually a metameric index over 1 means you have metamerism. And if you're looking at the spectral curves, if the curves cross more than 3 times or more, you have metamerism. Now you have to find out where the metamerism is. So if it looks good under daylight, then go to like a horizon or incandescent setting, because that's going to give you the widest range of illumination. And then also include cool white fluorescent, because the different cool white bulbs use different phosphorus in them, and where those phosphorus peak might be influencing how you see the color.
Yeah, total sense.
And usually it comes from the pigments that are used in the material or the combination of the pigments that are used in the material. So like it may not be a metameric pigment, but when you combine it with another pigment, now it may become metameric. So it's not a simple way for us to tell you that this is never going to be metameric. You have to do a color by color basis.
So where that's been a challenge in the last couple of years is with the supply chain challenges. People have done pigment substitutions in various formulas, and that can lead to some added metamerism. And then when you look at like interiors or appliances where you have a powder part and a painted part and maybe a screening part all coming together, those are all using different sources of pigment. So you find metamerism when you start looking at various things from various processes.
And with the price tag on your appliances and stuff, you definitely don't want to have metamerism on your appliances because everybody's going to see it. And like where your refrigerator or your stove is, there can be like daylight coming in, or you can change the lighting. So if you have metamerism on, especially an appliance, people are going to pick it up.
Yeah. And Heather writes a comment here. Thanks for the energetic CNA session. Fun listening to the Q&A and how your experts talk about these topics. More about measurements, color, and gloss on my radar for 2024. Excellent. And yeah, we have a full range of webinars scheduled. We'll probably start sending out email invites right after the first of the year. And feel free to register for them all. A lot of people do that because even if you can't attend, you're always going to get that recorded link. So thank you, Heather.
If you get the list of all the presentations that we're doing and we're missing something that you really want us to do, then please let marketing know, and we will set that up and include that into our schedule.
Yep. Always want to, listen to you, the customer out there, and how we can better serve you and help you. Physical test question for our resident expert, James here. Are there, I guess, key things that customers should look at? And I know this is a very general question, when approaching physical testing. I know consistency is one of those things. I know we're talking a lot about that with our new viscometers. that we launched earlier this year. Are there other key points that folks need to be aware of to really measure their data apples to apples and ensure consistent repeatability over time?
Well, when you say physical test, I think, okay, what are you looking to define? Are you looking to define the hardness of the product? Are you looking to define the coating thickness of the product, the color of the product, the gloss? So that's the first thing you have to define, right? So we have instrumentation that will quantify all those aspects of coatings. So that's the first question you want to ask someone is, what are you trying to look at? The adhesion property of the system, the scratch, is it scratch resistant? So once you start focusing in on what you're looking for, then we can start making recommendations on what type of instrumentation would be proper for those types of applications.
No, good. Yeah, it makes sense. What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, so the overarching question before that is, do you want to look at wet properties or dry properties?
Correct.
And then that takes us down a whole nother path. And if you're measuring a product or the paint itself, then there's other things that we would recommend that you basically focus on as far as processing consistency or painting consistency if you're painting parts.
Yep. Excellent. And when it comes to physical testing, you can visit our sister company website, gardco.com, GARDOCO.com. We have a chat functionality on there that you can ask technical questions to our team there, and they can answer you real time. There's also a pretty extensive knowledge library. We're looking to expand that in the coming year. In addition, we're looking to expand our BIC-instruments.com knowledge library over the next year. So we have a lot of exciting things coming. We have a lot of videos planned for our Gardco products, and those will be coming. And our new pelt, they've become a part of our organization. Ray or Greg or Noah, do you want to touch on that? What the heck is pelt?
Yeah, so pelt is a ultrasonic film thickness gauge that can measure multi-layers very accurately with its ultrasonic abilities. It's mainly used in automotive, but it has a lot of other applications that can really be used in many different industries.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, we did set up just yesterday, I set a webinar up in February. I believe it's February 6th or 16th. I can't quite remember, but look for the invite. We have one of the pelt representatives. She's going to be walking through the product, answering any questions. So take a look out for those invites and register for that one. That's new to us, and we're getting up to speed. But they've been doing it for 100 years?
Over 20.
20.
Or over 20.
The other thing about pelt is it works on almost any substrate, and it also does, like Noah said, the multi-layer. So you can measure your clear coat, your base coat, everything, and very accurately. So it's a really nice instrument. They made a lot of improvements in the transducers and stuff recently, so they're getting even more accurate. So it's a very good product.
So moving forward after the first of the year, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody out there has a question, specifically to pelt, they can work with our team.
Yes.
And we can help you out. We're in the process. These past couple of weeks, we've been in sales meetings and getting trained up on the technology, learning the ins and outs of it. So, ask your regional sales manager, tag Noah here, shoot him a note, hit reply to any of the marketing messages, and we'll get you the answers you need, or, can set up demos on site in your area as well.
And if you have an existing pelt and you need some like refresher training, or if you have new operators, we can also help with that.
Yeah. So lots of good stuff going on here. And we have a lot of exciting things planned for 2024. So other questions out there? We got about 15 minutes left. But if there's no questions, we can get a little bit of your time back here. Noah, Greg, Ray, James, any anything you want to, share with our audience as they go forward into 2024?
Well, I could just say that, Guardco has always been the one-stop shop. So for any of your physical test needs, you can contact the Paul Gardner Company. And also BIC is the leader in color and appearance.
Yeah.
So with the two, they're a fantastic asset for all, and we can figure out just about any application or problem that you might be having.
Yep, very true.
And just to tag on to that, if anybody wants to have BIC Gardner visit and either bring instruments with them or have a general session on, what we've got this problem, what do you think we could do? We're more than happy to come on site and have those discussions and try to see if we can't come up with a solution to any type of issue or challenge you're having.
Yep. And you're always welcome to see our facility here in Columbia, Maryland. We have a sampling of our products here. We have, training facilities and can set an agenda, based on your needs. On dispersion and media milling, we also have a dispersion lab at our sister company, BIC Chemie in Wallingford, Connecticut. There, you're always welcome to set it up, a time to visit, bring in samples, and actually run trials there on that equipment too. So, as James said, it's really a one-stop shop for color, appearance, and physical test. We're here to help you, to help solve challenges, increase efficiencies, reduce scrap and waste, all that good stuff you live and breathe every day. So we're there with you. And I think with that, we'll wrap it up here. Like I said, you'll get the link of this recording, this discussion. Feel free to forward it on, or, I think Noah uses them sometimes on date night, but that's his issue. So with that, we wish you a very happy holidays. Thank you for joining us on this webinar as well as previous webinars, and we look forward to seeing you in 2024. So thank you and happy holidays, everyone.